Hi there, welcome back to the dojo. I am Russ Leach, I'm the comic book black belt, and this is one of a series of videos where I'm going to talk about this book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. There are lots of books out there that profess to be able to teach you how to draw comics, and a lot of them are really good. But this is the daddy. This is the book. If you've got one book to teach you how to draw comics, or to help you how to draw comics, this is the one you should have. It's not perfect, but it is very, very close. It also has one of the finest artists ever to grace comics, John Buscema, drawing within its pages, and Stan Lee writing the book. Now, I was very fortunate to be involved in Draw the Marvel Way, which is similar in its approach. I put in there my hints, tips, tutorials of how to draw the Marvel characters. I've been blessed with being able to draw a ton of Marvel characters for Marvel within these pages, and it was 100 issues over just over 4 years. There were some other extremely talented people involved in the book, and it really is a good book in my personal opinion, but it still has not got a patch on this one. So what this series of videos is me effectively going through all the sections, all the lessons, all the chapters of this book, giving you some examples of my artwork that I feel that I've improved, or I've benefited from this book, and how that works for me. And in the chapters where you draw along, I'll be doing some drawings, and hopefully you can draw along with me, and hopefully it'll be of some use to everyone out there, and if nothing else, it'll be an advert for you to go out and buy this book. I'm using a PDF that I got from an educational download. I will put the link to that PDF in the description for each video in the series, but I can't instill enough in you. Go and buy this book and put it on your desk, because it's an absolute must-have. So without further ado, I'll get on with this episode. Okay, so chapter 10. Once again, a fabulous page from John Buscema. Just looking at the content of each of these panels, the use and selection of whether a background is required, how much detail goes into that background, the star effect, or the power effect around the gun, the drama of the Red Skull, the leaping of Captain Britain even though you're in close. I just can't tell you how good it is. Just check out some John Buscema artwork. There's lots of it out there from the Bronze Age, and also this book as well. Like I say, must-have book. So draw your own comic page. If we can do it, so can you. Yeah. It's easy to say that. It's another thing to actually do it. Yeah, I would look at this stuff in awe and go, how do I do that? And I'm not suggesting for 1 second that I've got anywhere near the skill or prowess of people like John, but at least I've come some way to understanding how to put it together, but also the shortcuts that you learn over time to make it a faster process. So let's get into this. As far as we know, this is the first time this technique has ever been offered to anyone outside the halcyon halls of Marvel. On the pages that follow, we're going to show you step by step exactly how a page might be penciled for a comic book. I mean, this is, if any of you guys out there are already doing this, if you're not just watching this for general interest, if you are actually drawing comics, you kind of already know how to put a page together. But there's certainly lessons to be learned from the way the Bronze Age artists used to do it. The power, the drama. I keep using these terms, but they're true. And the anatomy and scene building. The flow of story is unparalleled in my personal view for this particular kind of comic. Actually, the page you're about to study was originally done for a strip called Captain Britain, published by Marvel Comics for distribution and sale in Great Britain. I bought those comics. So this book meant a lot to me because those comics meant a lot to me. So I'm a little bit biased about this book anyway. Quite apart from how good it is, but there are probably some other underlying reasons why I love this book so much, apart from the fact that it is so damn good. So I am biased. I will admit that, but it doesn't matter because this is fabulous stuff. The artist was given John was given a plot description rather than a complete script containing the dialogues. That's the Marvel way of doing things. That's the Stan Lee way of producing scripts. Therefore, I'll just quickly jump into there. There's the Stan Lee way or the Marvel way of doing scripts. Very much a Stan Lee method because he used so many other people's abilities and skills and creative process. So you might say in that way he was an enabler to some degree. He wasn't just a writer or a plotter. He enabled the other people like Jack Kirby to be involved in that. I know there's a big discussion to be had about who created most Jack or Stan. Stan Lee was a front man and he also wrote comics very well. And he enabled other people around him in the group, as though in the team, to do what they did. I'm not going to get involved in a discussion about Jack and Ditko and what have you. Just to say that Stan Lee did enable other people to be involved, and that method is how you enable other people, especially the artist with the writer, to be involved in the story, more of a storyteller. You become more of a storyteller as a sequential artist if you use this method. And the method is just write a simple outline about what you want on the page. In some cases very, very simple and basic. Let the artist do their thing, and then when it comes back, then you script it with the artist's input. So that was the way that was done. There are other ways of doing it. I've worked in lots of different ways, and to be honest, I don't mind either way. I think it depends how involved I am in the book. So for instance, if I was doing the same character month in, month out, I'd probably want to do it the Marvel way, the Stan Lee way. Because I'd be so invested in it. If I was doing it, if I was doing like a one-off graphic novel for someone else, then probably I want a little bit more guidance from the script. But it swings and roundabouts. Let's get back into this. So, Captain Britain. Love Captain Britain. The artist was given a plot description rather than a complete script containing dialogue. Therefore, we won't concern ourselves with captions and dialogue balloons, but merely withdrawing the panels according to the plot. Obviously, making sure that there is some room for dialogue. You must always do that. Now, here's what we have to draw. In panel 1, Captain America, followed by Captain Britain, races down a corridor, blah, 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 blah. You're going to be able to see this. As soon as I move to the next page, you'll see how this is built up and the description that they're giving you here. And you can see that the final finished product was back on here. You can see how good that is. But you can see the layers that they went through effectively. So this is where the artist starts to build his figures using the spheres, cubes, cylinders, was studied in the earlier chapters. Notice how he will draw through a figure wherever necessary. So again, something that I advocate a lot is being able to draw the whole figure, and so that you know that you're getting those figures right. This is it, the fleshing out process, which we discussed in chapter 5. As you can see from spheres and cubes, cylinders, it's not a very big step to be complete to the completed figure, at least not once you've learned how to draw your face, the body, and all the other things. So you can see how that went from a very loose, and in this particular case, because they're underpinning what they were talking about in the previous chapters, and for people either who like to do it this way or maybe beginners, you've got this sort of stick figure thing going on, and then you've got a sketchy figure. I tend to go from a sketchy figure because I've had a lot of practice with anatomy, so I tend not to go from the stick figure straight away. I still do it on occasion. It depends about on the flow of the panel and the action, but it's all about layers, building those layers up, and then you get to this point where effectively he's filled in the form, as it were, got the form right. But then if you go back to there, and the shading is just gorgeous. and then that's enough for an inker to take that and run with it. I think an inker could take it and run with it from here, and give a look that's very close to the pencils. But then also an inker could probably take it from here and put their own spin on the style of the drawing. So there's something to be said for not going too far with pencils. I'll show you some examples of my own shortly, where you can see that you don't always have to take the pencils all the way, especially if you're doing your own inking or if you trust the inker. This is what they've got John to do in here, but I think a lot of this was retroactively done, and I know that for several inkers he would just do breakdowns and they would apply their own artistic ability to it and bring the page out. So it swings and roundabouts. It depends what you want. Okay, since you did such a great job on that one, let's try another. This time let's see if you can draw your own page in the same stages as you just observed before you look at the pages that follow. Then you can compare your own handiwork with ours. So effectively it's giving out a plot for you to have a go at. So there's not a lot I can say about this because I'm just whipping through the book and giving you my opinions on how it works. Something that you absolutely must take in from this page is the amazing drama that John instills with these just 6 panels, and each panel is a bloody piece of art. It's a work of art. Look at in the bottom panel there, falling off the side of the building, and the way that Silver Surfer's arms are crumpled up because they've been pulled in by the webbing. The drama of looking, and this is something we picked up in the previous chapter, the drama of looking past his heels in the foreground and Spider-Man in the far background, throwing spinning the web. This one where Spider-Man is looking down after he's been hit, just incredible stuff. And the pose from Silver Surfer, so much drama and weight to the figures. And look at how simple these buildings are, and yet they work so beautifully. The little bit of shade there on that top building, that's a bit cheeky. I love that. So then this book just examines how you did, and also looks on at how the shapes work. So quite a short chapter, really. And in the next chapter we'll have a quick chat about covers, which I haven't done a huge number of, to be honest, but this is a perfect example, and the way that they put the cover together is a perfect example of how to do it properly. What I have got here is a few examples of my own page layouts. So here we go. This is a Doctor Who page, and what I'll do is I'll show you how this was put together as well in a minute. And it's about putting the page together. Obviously, this particular chapter is about how do you get it done, and it's in conjunction with the previous chapter, which was all about composition, and you can't really talk about pages without talking about composition. And for instance, with this page, the composition isn't just about what's in the panel, it's the design of the page and making it flow from one panel to the next, but also making it attractive, pulling the reader in. I had far more panels on this page, and again being able to show scenes, three-dimensionality, perspective, but close in on the action when you need to. So you don't want a bunch of talking heads, but at the same time you want to have drama from a scene setting, from a story perspective. So I've zoomed in there and then zoomed back out again. You've got these isometric views, low down views, looking across the shoulder view, and then you get some kind of splash on the bottom panel here. This is Storm Chasers 8, which I've just finished, and this is quite simple actually because it's just 3 panels, but it's focused on the dynamics of the 2 characters talking to each other whilst there's a battle going on. and left in drama, and then this is another page that I'll show you in a minute, of how it breaks down, which is all about action, like breaking that flow, so it's calmed down and then a burst of action, and then a finishing off panel telling more story, again leaving yourself some room for text. So that page that I showed you first off, this is how I broke it down. So again, I started off with a very, very loose sketch, just like I've been showing you in Draw the Marvel Way, and you just keep drawing on. If this were a traditional on a piece of paper or a thumbnail, so for instance, you could probably say this is a thumbnail. I'd probably photocopy it up and then do a light sketch, and then you'd sketch again over the top, and you maybe use a light box to get it to exactly the way you wanted it to. So these are effectively my cubes, and so that was the light sketch. These are basically my cubes and bits and pieces, and then I nail some of the detail down to the characters, and then finally get myself pencils. Again, there's not a lot of shading on this. Is what I was saying before. This is something that I would ink, so I don't need a huge amount of shading and lighting, because I can make those decisions when I get to ink. All I need to know is that I've got the characters correct, they're in the right positions, they're feeling, they're standing properly, there's enough weight to them, and then you get into those inks there, which actually this is quite a fun story. I enjoyed doing this one. And then onto the Storm Chasers one. Again, as I was saying earlier, I didn't really go for the whole stickman, sort of putting that skeletal thing in. I just gone straight into the sketching of solid characters. But I kind of understand where I'm going with this, and it's important to sit down and read the script and really think about what you want to put on the page. Just don't go at it blankly. I'm sure there'll be some people out there that will disagree with me and that they can do that kind of thing. For me personally, I can't go at it blankly. I have to sit down and read the script a couple of times, get it into my head, understand where it's coming from, and then I can start thinking about the three-dimensionality of the scene. So there's my sketch. Yeah, and then there's effectively the sort of I've done two in one there. I've done the cylinders and the anatomy all kind of in one sketch there, and then finalize the anatomy over the top. Again, if you're doing this in traditionally, you'd just be sketching over the top, rubbing lines out, or using a light box, and then I get to the final pencils here. Again, there's texture in here on the outlines, but there's no real shading, because again, I'm inking this myself, and I know that I'm going to be making those decisions finally myself. Saying that though, that if you're in a partnership with an inker that you trust, there's no reason to take pencils too far. You can just hand it over to that inker, and the inker can finish it off, and that they're going to do a great job. And this is the final page, so you can see where I've added in the shade, added in the depth, added in further textures. I've even used a photographic texture down there for stone, because I thought it looked quite good in this environment. So using lots of different techniques to make the page buzz, and then have a good production at the end of it. And this is now going off to colour. So that's it for this one. Just didn't want to do that. That's it for this one. Just flicking through some other screens for you. That's it for this one. Go away and use this book, and look and take in the magnificence of the art in this book, And just the way that in particular, because John Buscema drew all this, the way that he instills power and energy into pretty much everything he draws, in a completely different way to, say, I know, Kirby or Manola, if you want somebody more contemporary. It's just, or Jim Lee. They're all so different, and yet all of them instill power, dimension, energy, and drama into their work. And it's the basics that get them there, making sure they have these basics absolutely nailed down, and that once they've got them nailed down, they can then start bending them to their will and making them work for their style and work for the story and work for comics, because comics is a unique medium. There's nothing else quite like it. So that's it for me. Thanks very much for sitting along while I yap on about my favourite things. And I'll be back again with the last chapter, chapter 11, because after that we've got, I think there is a chapter 12, yeah, because we've got some inking. But I might throw them both in together because it's a short chapter. So thanks very much for watching. If you are a subscriber, thank you again and again and again for being a subscriber, listening to me rant on and watching my art. If you're not, why not? Give it a go, because I do lots of things on the channel. Mostly art, it has to be said, because that's really why I'm here. I'm not here to talk politics or to talk news or to talk drama or anything like that. I'm just about the art. This is about escapism. It's about comics. I absolutely love it. It's the love of my life outside of my wife and family. And it just can't be beat. I absolutely adore it. So, subscribe. If you like the video, please give it a like. Share the video around. That always helps the algorithms. And, come over and see me in the other places I reside. You can find me at russleach.com, comicbookblackbelt.com. Also, onlydeathcansavus.com, which will have the Indiegogo up for that soon. And any of those places, and in the description below the video, you can find a link to the email subscription list there as well. And as with all the other links, you can find me at Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. So that's it from me for this chapter. I'll be back with another video on chapter 11. Thanks very much for joining me in the dojo today, and I'll see you again for another video real soon. Bye bye. Thanks for watching Comic Book Black Belt. If you've enjoyed the content from this video, please like, share or subscribe, and come over and follow me on Twitter. It's been great having you in the dojo. See you again soon.